Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we want to talk about understanding folder structure and separation of concerns before coding with AI. This simply means that you need to understand how to organize your software projects into different structure or into different parts that perform different functions. This is important because it helps you to understand the project, it helps you to be able to maintain the project, and it helps you to work with other developers in a very large code base. Okay, we know that a typical software will have different parts. One part is the user interface where users can interact with. The second part is the back end, which houses the business logics. This one is not visible to users. And another part is the database, which houses the application data. Okay, with this structure in mind, we can demonstrate it here that we have something like this as a user interface. We can call it maybe our web homepage. We have image here, we have the text, which one represents our front end plus the back end, and in this case we can call it the business APIs. API represents the application programming interface. It helps application to communicate with other application. The next part is the database. Okay, the database which contains our application data. Okay, in software development, there is a standard pattern to organize your software project, and this pattern is called MVC. MVC stands for Model View and Model View Controller. Okay, it helps you to organize your software project. It's a standard, and we also have different patterns, but in this case we focus on the most common one, which is the MVC. M here represents the database model. Okay, the database model or the schema, the table schema, and the view here represents the user interface. Like maybe the login page, the registration page, or any other user interface. And C here represents controller, which manages user requests. Okay, so when a user makes a request, like on the browser, a user types /register, this controller will be able to perform a function. In this case, it might call this function register function, and any logic defined for registration function will execute. Okay, with this in mind, we can now look at this image to see how the folders are organized and why they are done the way they are presented here. This is a typical Spring Boot project structure, and if you don't know Spring Boot, you should not be worried about it. Your concern is to understand how they organize the folders and why they are important. Okay, here is a typical Java structure where we have the source main Java, the way Java organizes its own project. But the most important part here is here, the com.example and student management here. These parts represent the package name, and these parts represent the application name. Okay, the next folder here is the controller. Like I said, it is organized this way so that you host different user requests like /register, /login, or any other request that a user will make. So any logic related to controllers or user requests will be hosted inside the controller folder. The next folder here is the service. This is where you organize and define your business logic. Okay, you define what your company does, the logic is defined in this folder called service. The next folder here is repository, which takes care of database interaction. Okay, how your application will interact with database. You define the interaction logics and they are stored in repository folder. The next part is the entity. We define different classes, and these classes will define our table schema, how our table will look like. Okay, and we have DTO where we get the user data. When user makes requests, we get the data with DTO and store it to be able to manage the data. And we have other folder here, exception. This is where you define errors. What will happen when something goes wrong? You define logic to manage errors. Okay, you define all this inside exception folder. And other folder we have configuration, where we make some configuration files of your application. We have security here, where you define your application security, like Java Spring security or any other security related files. They are all organized in this security folder and other folders here. So if you do not know about Spring Boot, you should not be worried. Our concern is to understand why these folders are organized in this manner. As you can see, when you are defining other logics, like maybe you want to create a dashboard for user, you know that you come to controller folder to create them instead of creating it anywhere that may be confusing. Okay, that is why it is important. With this, you should be able to know where different logics of your applications are located. Okay, so if you are coding with AI, when you ask AI to build a particular feature for you, you should be able to know where the feature is located, how you can manage the feature, how you can improve the feature. With this, you are rest assured that your project is well organized and you are able to understand what is happening even when working with artificial intelligence. So if this class interests you, please don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more lessons. Thank you.